All right. Well, everybody, you're listening to the disclaimers by Edward Johnston. It is October 30th, 2017, and this new audio clip it has been edited down from Ronald Reagan's inaugural speech, his first one. And we thought this would be a good one for everybody to be able to hear. So without further ado,
stop to think how unique we really are. In the eyes of many in the world, this every 4-year ceremony we accept as normal is nothing less than a miracle. Mr. President, I want our fellow citizens to know how much you did to carry on this tradition. By your gracious cooperation in the transition process, you have shown a watching world that we are a united people pledged to maintaining a political system which guarantees individual liberty to a greater degree than any other. And I thank you and your people for all your help in maintaining the continuity which is the bulwark of our republic. From time to time, we've been tempted to believe that society has become too complex to be managed by self-rule, that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people. Well, if no one among us is capable of governing himself, then who among us has the capacity to govern someone else? So as we begin, let us take inventory. We are a nation that has a government, not the other way around. And this makes us special among the nations of the earth. Our government has no power except that granted it by the people. It is time to check and reverse the growth of government, which shows signs of having grown beyond the consent of the governed. It is my intention to curb the size and influence of the federal establishment and to demand recognition of the distinction between the powers granted to the federal government and those reserved to the states or to the people. All of us need to be reminded that the federal government did not create the states. The states created the federal government. Now, so there will be no misunderstanding, it's not my intention to do away with government. It is rather to make it work with us, not over us, to stand by our side, not ride on our back. Government can and must provide opportunity, not smother it, foster productivity, not stifle it. If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price. It is no coincidence that our present troubles parallel and are proportionate to the intervention and intrusion in our lives that result from unnecessary and excessive growth of government. It is time for us to realize that we're too great a nation to limit ourselves to small dreams. We're not, as some would have us believe, doomed to an inevitable decline. I do not believe in a fate that will fall on us no matter what we do. I do believe in a fate that will fall on us if we do nothing. So with all the creative energy at our command, let us begin an era of national renewal. Let us renew our determination, our courage, and our strength. And let us renew our faith and our hope. We have every right to dream heroic dreams. Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look. On the eve of our struggle for independence, a man who might have been one of the greatest among the founding fathers, Dr. Joseph Warren, president of the Massachusetts Congress, said to his fellow Americans, "Our country is in danger, but not to be despaired of. On you depend the fortunes of America. You are to decide the important question upon which rests the happiness and the liberty of millions yet unborn. Act worthy of yourselves." As for the enemies of freedom, those who are potential adversaries, they will be reminded that peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice for it. We will not surrender for it, now or ever. Our forbearance should never be misunderstood. Our reluctance for conflict should not be misjudged as a failure of will. When action is required to preserve our national security, we will act. We will maintain sufficient strength to prevail if need be, knowing that if we do so, we have the best chance of never having to use that strength. Above all, we must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. It is a weapon that we as Americans do have. Let that be understood by those who practice terrorism and prey upon their neighbors. Beyond those monuments to heroism is the Potomac River, and on the far shore, the sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery with its row upon row of simple white markers bearing crosses or stars of David. They add up to only a tiny fraction of the price that has been paid for our freedom. Each one of those markers is a monument to the kind of hero I spoke of earlier. Their lives ended in places called Belleau Wood, the Argonne, Omaha Beach, Salerno, and halfway around the world on Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Pork Chop Hill, the Chosin Reservoir, and in 100 rice paddies and jungles of a place called Vietnam. Under one such marker lies a young man, Martin Treptow, who left his job in a small-town barber shop in 1917 to go to France with the famed Rainbow Division. There on the Western Front, he was killed trying to carry a message between battalions under heavy artillery fire. We're told that on his body was found a diary. On the flyleaf, under the heading, "My Pledge," he had written these words: "America must win this war. Therefore, I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone." The crisis we're facing today does not require of us the kind of sacrifice that Martin Treptow and so many thousands of others were called upon to make. It does require, however, our best effort and our willingness to believe in ourselves and to believe in our capacity to perform great deeds, to believe that together we can and will resolve the problems which now confront us. And after all, why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans.
All right. After that, Ed, you got a tough act to follow, so take it away.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But anyhow, I have to let everybody know. I just got to kind of run off on a call when that was playing. We have a new access code number. And so apparently people didn't get that, and so that would explain what's going on. So I'm putting that up right now on the Facebook site and getting that on emails right now for others. You know, so that way it's like, so people get to know what's going on. Apparently, I thought I was putting out the newsletter, people got it, but apparently, nope, they didn't read it. And so that would have a lot to do with my era, my fault, my responsibility, not clarifying that with people. So it's like, so I'm just getting it out right now on Facebook and stuff. And so for those who are listening on the TV structure of it, we do have the new access code. The call-in number is 641-715-0864. Participation code is 995745. And so I do apologize because I thought when I was putting the newsletter out, it was clarified, but I just got a call as Ronald Reagan was speaking from his grave. We'll say it that way. I like that terminology. I thought that was pretty cute. But I wanted to let people know that the new access code is what I mentioned it is, because I thought it was getting out, but that would explain why people are not getting into the call, because they we didn't realize we changed the access code. This is the second time we have done it in the last 2 years, last year. So that would explain a lot of things that have transpired. So I do have to apologize, and I do take responsibility of that. So that's what I'm posting up right now on people's deal to get it out right now. So anyhow, that's what I'm up to right now, getting that out. But I wanted to get in tonight, compared to last night, because I know a lot of people get on me because I attack religion, and a lot of people take that so personal, which shouldn't be personal, because the Constitution says that we have a right. You comprehend this? We have a right to our religious beliefs. Your belief might not be my religious belief. Your belief is different than mine. Fine. So be it. Okay? My religious belief is different than your belief. So fine. Be it. We're supposed to actually be adults and respect one another. And that's the saddest part about these things that are going on. A lot of it, people are not respecting one another. They think their religion supersedes somebody else's religion. Hate to tell you, folks, it does not, at all. It doesn't. At all. Our equal rights of our religion. The Constitution says we have a right of religion if we want it. We have a right of religion if we don't want it. And that's the point. If people don't want to believe in your religion, you shouldn't be judgmental and attack them in these things. This is the saddest part we're living today. Kids are being educated, turned against people because the parents educate them on their religious belief instead of letting the kid have an open mind on religion, but also to educating them in the religious belief. That is fair. That's responsible. That's acceptable, honorable. It comes down to being responsible. And that is the one thing that we got to start coming back around and being responsible instead of acting like little children. This is the thing that really hurts the children, when people are not being responsible on their actions. And it's really sad when people are not being responsible for their actions. The kids are the ones who terminally pay the price. But people don't think about the children in those manners. They don't think about the structure in that aspect of what's going on with the children in that manner at all. It's always about me, 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 me. And that's part of what tonight's talk show is about: owning your bloodline, owning your children, educating your children, being responsible to your children. You know, people will blame the school district or the state where they live and blame the state because the state's supposed to educate my child. Excuse you, you're wrong. You have to educate your own children. That's what the Constitution says. You are supposed to educate your children. If you don't educate your children, who do you expect to have your children educated by? The state? The state doesn't want to regulate your children. They don't care about your children. They want to own your children, and that's what I'm going to read you some stuff that I put together a thing. It's been a rough draft per se. People need to go through it, make the best decision of themselves. That's very simple. Make your own decisions. Rewrite it. Please don't go by my internal draft because I have all the facts in it. That is fine. Use the facts and the information that best works for you. Okay, that's the whole point of making sure it works for you. You have to make sure that this education is for you and your children. That includes your religious beliefs. Your job and your employment of life with your bloodline is to educate your children, not the school system, not the state. Because if the state educates your child, you comprehend that the state only cares about what they are doing. They do not care about you at all. They don't want nothing to do with you at all. The only thing that they want from you is to make an income. That's all they want. You know, they don't care. And most of your public servants are Christians. That's why everybody gets on me going, "Oh, Ed, you're being too hard on this. Oh, Ed, you shouldn't be acting this way with Christians." Well, how many Christians do you know that sit there and steal? I don't care if you're stealing from the corporation, okay? And most businesses, when you think about most businesses, they have write-offs in the business itself. So most businesses did that for the corporation structure so they could write things off. Remember, it's a write-off. You know, even if you write your business off and your taxes and all that, you can do that legally. Remember, legally is British Vatican law, Roman Catholic. When you are a nonprofit organization, you are a church, a regulation church. And that's the only way that people get away with being a nonprofit, technically. So it doesn't matter what your nonprofit is you're doing, you're a church. Look it up, 501c3 through 9. And you're supposed to leave your nonprofit structure financially. Financially, you're supposed to leave it to another nonprofit. Another nonprofit for their gain. That's the whole point. People do not comprehend this point for their own personal gain. And if you're going to do it for your own personal gain, do it for your own personal gain. You know, I love it. I love all these people on the internet that go after me and, you know, tell me, you know, "Oh, Ed, you don't believe in God." Well, no, I don't believe in the terminology of God. I probably believe in the theory of God because I go by the Great Spirit, Mother Earth, and the Creator. And without Mother, you have no life. That's a fact. You know, test tubes. Look what a test tube does. I've even put up structures where they got bags of living animals in bags, or test-growing animals in bags, or test tubes. And that's the saddest part. When they're doing this to the kids, when they're doing this to the structure, people are getting destroyed by the corporation system. And when the corporation system is allowed to sit there and destroy people, destroy the structure that people are living, this is what's destroying us. totally destroying us. And the kids are the ones that pay the cost. When it ultimately comes down to it, they pay the ultimate cost. And when people start telling me they're a Christian, no disrespect here. I'm not trying to be disrespectful in these words, but I want you to comprehend that I have an equal Constitution right as every other lawful American does. Immigration has privileges. That's federal law. That actually goes all the way back to 1770, 1774, 1778. Privileges. So that's the one thing is that people got to realize what a privilege is and what a right is. When you are from another country and you're in our country, you have a privilege. And I've actually talked to different people that have comprehended this structure with no problems, no easements, no issue. They're getting it. You know, I was talking to, I'm going to be getting in here and reading some stuff here as soon as I find my page. But I was talking, I'm getting some messages out right now on Facebook responding to a couple deals that people are responding. I'm giving them a new code. But I want to get into this stuff because the whole circumstances is knowing the bloodline rights. I've argued with Austin Thomas on his talk show, and everybody keeps going, Ed, quit talking about the bloodline. We don't want to hear about bloodline, blood rights. You know, they come to this country, they got a constitution, they have rights. And I said, oh, so I can walk into your house, and I can grab your remote, sit in your chair, and I have the rights to control you and dictate to you in your own home. Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. What? Wait a minute, you just told me I had the rights to do that. You're saying that these people have a right to come into our home, our land. They have a right to our land to do this. So why can't I come into your home and do it to you? Makes logical sense to me. Perfect sense to me. You do it to my home, I have a right to come into your home. It's simple. You know? What are you talking about? I don't have a right to do this. You just told me I do. You told me you do. You come into our country and you say that, you know, you have a constitutional right because you're here. No, you don't. You have to earn your rights. And that's by, you have to be, by federal law, 5 or more generations. This ain't a joke. This is real. People sit there and go, oh, no, you can't do that. Yes, we can. Our forefathers have been invaded in this country for the last couple of 100 years. Simple. You know, I mean, there's a lot of us who are half-breed, quarter-breed. We're native. There's a lot of people that ain't even Indian that their bloodline has been in this land for 150 years, 300 years, 500 years, just because they don't tote the Indian brand on them, color or whatever you want to say. That is fine. But the bottom line is, see, it's called respecting one another. And if people would actually learn how to respect one another, we wouldn't have the problems we have today. It's that simple. It really is that simple. And it's like that's the point that I want to get into tonight, too, dealing with ownership of your bloodline. I've been on the hospital dealing with some issues I'm dealing with. And it's interesting because I've been able to talk to some of these people in the hospital very bluntly about the birth certificate, very bluntly about registration. Some of these men and women actually do know it. Some of them really don't know it. And the ones who do know it, you know, they're like, we don't have an issue with it. We just have to do our job. I said, I get you on that. But if people know what they're talking about, we can't argue with them because we're not going to put our house in a sling of a liability issue. If that makes sense, it's a liability issue. And these people know it because it's their home, their bloodline, their inheritance, their children. You know, I've been working with people that I've been saying, pass your bloodline down, pass your property down. I've had people go, we never thought about that. That's a good idea. Good. I'm glad you're catching on because, our forefathers used to do this for the children, literally. Literally used to pass the stuff down to their children. They didn't give it to the churches, especially the churches. Churches don't, ministers and pastors, they don't care for you. They don't love you. In the name of whose God? What God? What is a God anyways? Do we know what a God is? Do we know what Jesus is? Because the Christians, if you actually go back in real history, the Christians were the ones who brought Jesus to the slaughter. His own people brought him in and turned him in. I just find it sad that people don't read real history, or they want to interpret things for their own financial gain. People do that all the time. They put things in for their own personal financial gain. That's the saddest part about this part of life. People don't think about anybody else but themselves. And it's true. I mean, come on. Why can't we be honest about it? You know it. How many times do you think about yourself first before somebody else? How many times have you seen somebody down on their luck that, oh my God, if I help them, I shouldn't do that? I mean, the type of man I am, I have literally given the shirt off of my back to people. Or my coat to a woman in wintertime when she was cold. Didn't have a problem doing that. It wasn't an issue. It's only a coat. That's why when I have specialty coats, I don't wear them out, basically the general public. Because you never know what's going to happen. These are things that people don't think about on life, basically the structure of life. And if people would actually see these things in life itself, we would have half the problems we have today, to tell you the truth. I mean, literally, we would have half the problems. And think about that one yourselves. It's very sad that we live in this way. I want to get into this in the structure. I want to go through this so people comprehend. A live birth certificate. When you get a live birth certificate from the state of your state, it is an actual contract with the Vatican, with the Christianity and the Roman Catholic Church. And if you do real history, you'll find out the Christians and the Roman Catholic were one and the same until they split apart. It's sad to people who do not teach real history. People interpret the Bible for what fits them best. That is the saddest part of that part right there. They fit it for what fits them best. People read the Bible, interpret the Bible, what fits them best. People know that. Come on, let's be honest. How come we can't be honest about it? Life is that simple if we're honest. It really is that simple when we're honest. Some people say honesty hurts. But when you register your kids, the state becomes the daddy, internal daddy for your dad by paperwork. So you just signed your state, your responsibility, your liability, your bloodline to the state, your property to the state. So in other words, you don't have rights to claim your property anymore because you gave your property over to the state. Your blood is your property. Fourth Amendment guarantees that. Read Fourth Amendment rights of blood. It's in the Constitution. It's on the internet. I put it in my instruments a lot of times, the Fourth Amendment. Excuse me. What it means, what it says, and, if people would realize and read the stuff that is put out there. I've had numerous different conversations and possibly some would say arguments with different people about the Constitution. And I say, doesn't it say this? And they go, well, yeah, but that's not what it means. This is an interpretation of what it means. Well, when I see that the Second Amendment says, thou shalt not be infringed. Thou shalt not be infringed. There's no interpretation to that. So, and that's the other point there. When you register your child with the state and you get them registered, besides the state becoming the daddy, now the Bar Association has authority over the bank bond. And if you go through the 1933 Bankruptcy Act and HR 120, HR 192, that means lawful Americans are not supposed to pay water and electricity bill, and we're working on that so we could do that, because I know a lot of people have got their videos up around there. I'm not saying they're wrong or right or indifferent. I'm saying that I'm not going to get involved to a point. I've got some things that we're working on right now. If it does prove out in the next month or 2 months, I will bring it forward. Excuse me. I apologize. But I want to make sure when I bring it out and I start doing it, because I'm doing it myself first. I don't want to put somebody else out there on a limb that somebody could get convicted or charged for something that they shouldn't be charged for. A lot of people put stuff out there and they just put it out there. They don't explain things to the general public, and then people file different paperwork and then get themselves in trouble, and then liability issues. Sometimes they don't have the resources to say different things when they get in trouble. I'm not out trying to generate income from elected and public employees. I do not like to use the word government, because then if you actually read the Constitution, we the people are the government. We're the first branch of government. We have legislative, judicial, and come on, think about it. What's the fourth one? I want you folks to think on it. And the other point I want to bring to your attention is where in the Constitution or judicial does it say anywhere law enforcement? It doesn't. Nowhere. There is no law enforcement anywhere. So when you look at that and you comprehend that law enforcement does not have a rights or authority, and you get to know how to speak. I can honestly say that I know that there's been many children to date that I've been involved with through their parents, their bloodline folks that have fought for their kids verbally, professionally, politely, and they've got their children home with no paperwork, no structure, no birth certificate, no social security number. So I argued that. I was trying to explain that to some people a few years back. And I finally got the deal where I could put the paperwork together in a rational point, because I know what I'm talking about, but the point is, until I could put it together in a rational point to make sure that it's rational when people read it, I will not put it out for people to put something out with my backing and put somebody else in trouble. People will tell you the 14th Amendment doesn't exist. The 13th Amendment doesn't exist. Yes, it does. 13th Amendment was ratified twice. If you do the administrative research through congressional record, which I have, which I do believe is on our Facebook site, as well as the new.org and Tractor site. So when we quote this stuff, we're lawful bloodline Americans. They wrote it. We quote it to keep the constitutional employees contract, because the Constitution is ours. Everybody says, it's not yours. You're not supposed to. Yes, it is ours. But it's a contract we have with our employees to use that protects us from our employees. That's our employee contract with the elected public servants, and that's part of the 1871 contract that we have called from the Civil War, the Federal Zone. Because when the Federal Zone really became existence, the Federal Zone is the British Vatican government. And that runs back to the Treaty of 1213. And is known throughout the backsides as the Devil's Contract. That's why I put it in the writing and always say about the Devil's Contract. That's called the Devil's Contract. And King King James is partly that's in your Bible that people go by, but when they read a lot of this stuff, they don't comprehend. I'm a man that don't get on my knees to worship a book. That's what it is, a book. I'm not going to go to a church and worship the pastor, like standing up and worshiping a judge when he walks in. I sit down, like State Representative Marble, and I put his stuff up. We're getting more of his. State Representative Marble doesn't have a driver's license. He goes to court all the time. I got his videos up there. Please watch it. We'll have him on our talk show here in time. I spent a couple nights ago talking to him. He's a state representative in New Hampshire. He's already got a bill on the floor on driver's licenses to separate it from lawful travel compared to immigration. I sent him some more information on that because I had a proposal I did for Kim Thatcher of the Oregon State and a few other senators and state representatives to put our rights intact, because under Administrative Rule ORS 446 033.33 says you do not need a driver's license in the state of Oregon. 803.50, you don't need to register your covered wagon. They already have it in Administrative Rules of Oregon, but if you don't do it, like they've threatened me because people are listening to me, they're figuring out that I'm telling the truth on this stuff, and so seeing it for years, I never hunted with a hunting and fishing license technically and all this stuff. I would go out and get my deer for the winter. I'd go out and get my food for the winter off the public lands or right-of-way lands to do it. I never had an issue until I really got speaking publicly. And when I got speaking publicly, that's when I started getting attacked. And if you're using the terminology United States citizen or national, a national or citizen belongs to an organization. And see, to comprehend this, I am not a resident or an inhabitant of, a franchise of, a subject of, word of, the property of, the chattel of, or subject of jurisdiction of any monarch or any corporation or commonwealth, federal, state, territory, county, council, city, municipality, body, politics, or any other government alleged created under authority of a constitution or any other enactment. So that means an enactment means that a private people of a private corporation that turn public because they're under public contract when they're a public employee and publicly funded, claiming that now they have rights when they don't have rights. Legislators, the city, county, and states cannot make administrative rules of legislation. And the only way that a city ordinance can be passed technically, legally, is if it goes through the House and Senate and passes through the House and Senate and the governor signs it himself to make sure that city ordinance is even legal. That's a fact. So you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up, not setting yourself up in the wrong point, setting yourself in the right point of comprehending and what you're reading, how you're protecting to set up yourself to protect your bloodline. Because when your child is born, male and female, it takes a man and a woman to have a child, not a test tube. You know, you can do surrogate mothers, yes, but, you know, that's the other point. You know, that's property, too, under a contract. If you do a contract with her, she gives up her rights. But then again, that's a piece of her, so that's still a property. And they've actually got court cases that have gone through and won in court on those type of circumstances. You know, sometimes men and women can't have children, and you just hope that if you do a surrogate mother, you get the right one that ain't going to fight you for the rights of property. I don't like using the word custody because that's a democracy point of view. It's your right of property, so you're fighting for your property. I try to learn the language of our forefathers compared to the language that we get taught today, because we get taught British statute codes, and most people just get along with that. They don't think about it, they just do it. That is the frustrating point with the education we have today. It is not proper. And I get people all the time will sit there and tell me, Ed, you didn't make a complete sentence here or whatever on things I put out. And it's like, I'm not speaking British language. I'm not a foreigner to speak British language. So I'm not going to speak British language. I'm not going to participate in British language. I'm not going to participate in religious language. Because I'm an American. I'm a bloodline American from America on American soil. I am not a foreigner. I'm not going to participate in foreign issues, foreign structures. I'm not going to put myself into that position to do that to myself. I won't do it. Neither should you do it. You do it, you give up your rights. You give up your point of view. You give up you. You give up your personal salvation in your own mind. You know, and yes, you can own your own mind. That is one thing, that you own your body. Your mind is part of your body. So when people try to claim something else on you, it's not right. They can't do it. That's the point, that people need to comprehend the simple points of life and be honorable. And as soon as we could be honorable in life, we would have so less issues and problems that we have today. That has a lot to do with, you know, when you register your kid. It's like registering your car. A lot of us, you know, we're figuring out this the last 30 years, how this program works, how this works in the deal, how they're able to get away with this, you know, Grand Theft Auto, and we can't charge them. Well, it's because we weren't learning how to charge them correctly. We weren't learning the administrative rules of their structure. That's like, you know, when people want to do this, I tell people, I don't tell anybody anything, I suggest. If I tell anybody, that puts me in a liability issue. I don't want liability. I'm not here for you on a liability issue. I'm just here putting out my thoughts for my education to people, so that way you can see what's going on. You can get a point of view that you're probably not used to. And that's the whole point of getting that education out. That's like I'm sitting there realizing that a lot of people don't have the new number. I've had a couple of responses to that. So I'm getting that out as we speak as well. And that has been my fault. I thought when I put out the newsletter that I do, the 80-page newsletter, the big newsletter I put out, and people always go, my God, Ed, that's so long. But I keep going, my God, folks, if you actually read it, there's information that protects you and your children in it. But you have to read it. You have to comprehend it. I mean, it's full of information to protect your children, your bloodline. It's like there's a news article. This is the one thing that I find interesting, what's going on, you know, with these domestic terrorists coming in, these foreigners that are coming into our country. Muslims primarily. This is what gets to me. People say, oh, these people have a right. No, they do not. If you're an immigrant, you do not have a right. You have a privilege. As soon as you comprehend that you have a privilege, then you can start conquering different things. But it's a privilege you have in this country, not a right. It's a privilege that we all have to breathe air, as some people say. Well, in England, it is a privilege now. Because in England, this is a wonderful thing in England, they just put a carbon tax in. So a carbon tax means they're charging you to breathe air. That's what it means, that carbon, because you inhale and you exhale carbon. So they're charging you to breathe air now. The United States has been working on that for some time. And they've actually been trying to do that, and they incorporated one carbon tax in new mortgage contracts. And that's the one thing I ask people. Do you read your mortgage contract? Do you comprehend what a contract means? And it's interesting because a lot of people do not know how to read a contract. They interpret a contract. That's the saddest part. They interpret a contract. You can't interpret what you don't know. You're not an attorney going into court. That's what attorneys do. They interpret the law, what they call the law, but it's not a law they're interpreting. Technically, it's a statute, code, and administrative rule. And that is the one thing that people need to realize, that that is an administrative rule that is going on that people are comprehending to. Another guy just had his car tagged with one of those boot deals in a parking lot. It's like he doesn't have a contract with the parking lot, and the people who own the parking lot are taking a tax write-off on the parking lot, so they can't do that. If they're, because when they take a tax write-off, that makes it public right-of-way, public land. Not only that, if there was ever an old horse trail that went through that area, that's a public right-of-way. People don't know that, but people don't do the research to look at those things or comprehend the right-of-way. And that's really what it is, a right-of-way. And when you have, like your property, some people will have an easement on their property. An easement means that you still own the property, technically, but PG&E or the gas company or the city or some other type of form of a corporation will have an easement through it, so that way they can do their work through whatever they need, trying to go bypass it. Let's say if you got a gas line going through your property for the neighborhood. So those are things that you look at to how it works. And it is one of those things to step out of the movie, watch the production, and figure it out. Because if you don't figure it out, how do you expect to pass your bloodline down and comprehend those things? It's that simple. Your bloodline speaks a lot, and that's the one thing people all the time, and that's why I keep harping on people for their bloodline. Know your bloodline. Know of your 5 or more generations on this soil. When you have a child, if you're a legal citizen or legal national, know how to file and claim your rights to that bloodline if that child is 5 generations. It's lawful. Seriously, if you've been on this property, going on this property, the 48 states, remember Hawaii, Alaska, Rhode Island, and not Rhode Island, but I'll catch on here in a minute, all these other states, what they call states, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Alaska, they are not part of the original 48 states of the Civil War. They are part of the corporation. So they have privileges under administrative rules unless you're lawful bloodline American living in those privileged areas. That does give you a right under the contract that we have with them as administrative contracts. That's the one thing that people don't get on administrative contracts, what administrative contracts really are. So if people comprehended that stuff, we wouldn't have a lot of problems we have. I want to bring you to your attention, too, with the bloodline that goes on, because people are realizing that the shootout in Las Vegas, is another one of those talks, like the Orlando, Florida bar shooting that they did in a gay bar. That was a hoax. I was actually getting videos sent to me live when they were carrying people into the bar. They were carrying them into the bar, not getting a live feed, and I'm questioning at the time what's going on? Why is this live feed going on? And then I started realizing, and then an hour and a half later, all of a sudden they're doing all this stuff saying, we just had this shootout in a bar, and this is what's going on. And I realized there ain't no shootout in a bar. They were bringing those same people they're claiming was shot into the bar. And the other point is, like, it's interesting because all the witnesses for the shootout in Las Vegas are all coming up dead. All of them. And the one that was on even Ellen's show, the one that Jesus is his name, claiming to be a Jesus. He's claiming to be that in this country. And he escapes to Mexico under immunity protection. I find that interesting. These are things that we look at and we find out that are interesting. And the other point is you always want to, like, I like reading this stuff like Article 3 of the Constitution, judicial power. You know, what the courts can and cannot do. The courts cannot issue a law on you. And I want to get into a couple things that have gone on in other news around the country. This one I find hilarious. Morocco. 15 Muslim teens decide to go have sex with a donkey, and all of them end up with, you're going to love this, all of them end up with, oh, you're going to love this, rabies. Sort of tells you about animal sex, don't it? I don't recommend it myself, but the other point is Article 7, or Title 7, 136, Section D, we're all animals. Me, I just don't look into that stuff, but others might. That's sick, but then again, you know, technically, they have a constitutional right because there's no injured party. And if you know about the one case where the one guy tried to have sex with a dog, the dog bit his thing off, so they react. They ain't stupid. The other one I like to bring to people's attention, too, is type in, and we'll have put up on the Facebook walls here. I already got it up on the Facebook wall. We'll have it up on the website here. Nobody died in Sandy Hook. And it's a PDF file. It's a book that was written. And the FBI has already proved that there was no bodies. Nobody died. The FBI reports even right now in Las Vegas, there is no body count. There's YouTube videos where people have gone and went through the hospitals during the shootout to see if there was injured victims and stuff, and the hospitals are on record saying they don't have anybody injured from the shootout in Las Vegas in the hospitals. That's interesting. This one lady, I can't remember her name, her last name's Lev. She does a talk show, a radio show in New York, and she did a segment on her show for that too. Because she personally called the hospitals and asked them about the reference of people up there. So this is what I'm saying. It's so important not to have your children registered in the system. And, you know, keep them registered out of it. File your paperwork. And then when they get harassed, they have their papers on them. An attorney can only represent a corporation. So when it comes down to it, if you have no birth certificate, no registration, and you have your paperwork, you have your corporation paperwork, so if they appoint you a public pretender, they have to represent to the corporation paperwork by federal law. There's your federal paperwork right there. Don't sign into anything. You already got your paperwork there. It's already registered. You already saved your butt. This is all real. It's all real. It does work this way. I got people that argue with me, and I've got people that have got their children home, no paperwork. I've got people that have got their children and deregulated them within the last year that they had their children. And this is the one thing is comprehending how these things work compared to what we're technically taught how they work or what we think. Because we get a lot of people on talk shows say, oh, the 14th Amendment don't work, you're a slave and all this stuff. And what gets to me is I'm wondering how much these people are getting paid. And then you notice a lot of these guys are making a living off their talk shows. And that's an interesting thing because when you look at some of their sponsors are about what people bitch about on their structure. They bitch about it. They really do bitch about the structure, and people wonder why it's going on. I want to bring up another point. In Oregon, I mean, this is the one thing about Oregon, you know, we got the most interesting transgender governor, or trans, whatever you want to call, Kate Brown, you know, open, lesbian, whatever, married to a guy, but they're both attorneys. They know the system. They're making a living off it. They don't care. They had to adopt children. That proves a fact right there. When you have to adopt children and you can't have children, that's a scary thought. Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm getting to that one. Yeah, I'm getting to that one. I'm going to hit the one point is in Oregon with the teacher structure. Transgender teacher is suing the state and got awarded $60,000 because they wouldn't call her by her transgender name. Come on, people, let's grow up. That's the sad part about this country. You know, that is the saddest part. So I do have this instrument up, and I'll get to that right now, and then we'll open up the floor. I do have this instrument I put together on claiming your bloodline. And once you claim your bloodline, you get to own it. And that's where I was getting into stating this stuff where it says citizen or a member of any organization, you don't claim jurisdiction. The 13th and 14th Amendment do exist. You do not claim a surname, Mr., Mrs. I don't write my stuff in capitals at all. Everything I do in lower, small e, small j. I do cursive. I don't have a problem doing cursive. I have to do that for signatures and autographs instead of printing. And printing gets back to the point of putting an X so that way they could say that you didn't sign it, and that's the saddest part because that's how they get away with these things when you claim your bloodline. Because if you put an X on it, anybody can put an X on it. And you need to know that. I do recommend when you do paperwork like this and claim your bloodline and you're doing affidavits, your right thumbprint. And if you don't have a right thumb, you can put your left thumbprint or another fingerprint. If you don't have arms, use your toes or your thumb, your big toe. Because all your prints of your body, your hands and toes are different than anybody else. So it is one of those things to consider, think about, and that's not being discrimination to the disabled by saying that if you don't have a limb or something like that, you have to compromise. And when you do file for your rights on a child and you own your rights, you publicly hang it up at the city, county bulletin boards, the county, the state. You file it with the county recorder, the Secretary of State. I recommend you do it registered, certified first. And then you walk in after you get their green card back, because the green card proves that you're dealing with a foreign corporation, a foreign country. And when you come into the United States, you have to have a green card to come in here. So that's green. Your green card gives you the right to deal with the foreign structure. And so you have the paperwork to prove it now. But you go in, excuse me, never tell them what you're doing. They'll always ask you, trying to get you cornered in so they don't have to do that. And I do have the stuff on Clerk, what they have to do. Quote them their law. Quote them their law. Isn't it a law that says that if you don't file my paperwork, you could lose your job? We're going to have the actual laws up on our site, I believe. And quote them the law. Don't get in personal conversation. Remember, these Christians that work for the government don't love you. They don't care about you. Every Christian that works for the government or the churches, they turn on people all the time. I've witnessed it. I have personally lived it. I have gone through churches in my community when I was in a relationship. Oh, we got to go to this and that, and of course I always proved I was right, and I used to piss her off all the time. It's like, why are we going here? Why come we're not working this out ourselves? We're supposed to be the adults here. Just because you might not agree with what I'm saying, but if a woman doesn't agree with you, she's supposed to have faith in you. At least you have time to prove it instead of downplay you. That's the sad part we're living today. Same with men, too. It works both sides of the street. But when you do this, you file on it. And I always like to file in the museums because the museum can only carry actual records. And so when you do register your kid by the birth certificate, it's like your car, your insurance, everything else. You're registering yourself permission. And when you do that, it's an insurance bond for the Vatican. And also, too, remember on insurance bonds, they have reinsurance on every bond. So that way you don't collect on that. Let's say, you have an insurance policy, and I'm going to use an example of a motor covered wagon, and somebody hits you and you got damage to yourself, and if they don't, let's say there's a $50,000 bond coverage on that bond, they don't pay the whole $50,000 technically like they're supposed to, because that injured is supposed to cover you. Then when they don't pay it, they get it back into the corporation, and the board members divide that up, and now bring it down through administration to the bottom to the insurance agent, where they get their extra, probably $50 or $100, maybe $200 on the deal. So when you're registering your child for yourself, and I don't mean use the word registering for the government, I mean registering it to you. You are registering your bloodline to you. You are the corporation of that bloodline, as they want to use the word corporation. So you're the owner of that bloodline. And that's where your responsibility comes in. And you make sure that you have a copy in your possession all the time when you're traveling. So this way, when you get harassed or pulled over, here's my evidence. Now as they take you into custody, you have to go to a magistrate right off the bat. They cannot even fingerprints or take a picture until you've been to a magistrate, and the magistrate says they have enough information to hold you. This is federal and state laws. They don't do that because they make more money off the private jails and foster care than anything else. More children die in foster care than they die in people's homes anyways, but they don't publicize that because the people knew that there was a 2-to-1 ratio of kids dying in foster care compared to dying in their own homes, even in the worst conditions, and this is statistically by their own structure. They do a statistic every year in each state on this. Most people do not realize it's statistically done, and they have to do that for budgetary purposes. Because when the budget goes out and they put certain structures in the budget of the state, even with children care, foster care, they put every child in foster care budget program, and they get a mass funding, and then that funding goes into the agencies and it trickles down the way they see fit. They're supposed to put some of that funding into real mothers and fathers that have their children at home, supposed to be protecting them, and they don't do that, or it's supposed to come to you yourself, even when you have a child, and that you're not you're on the system at all either. It's supposed to come in a dividend check. That's part of the budget that they pass in the House and Senate. If they don't get that, they pocket the money themselves. Most senators and House of Representatives own foster care programs, are investors in it, own elderly homes and structures on that purpose. They actually own the corporations. So they make money on both ways on what they're doing in voting. And when they vote on certain things, and if they own an elderly home, a foster home, care program, anything in child industry, that's a conflict of interest. They cannot speak. I watched congressional hearings where another senator would say, oh, that's not a conflict of interest. Oh, yes, it is. If you have anything to do in any part of it, it's a conflict of interest. And that's the saddest part. People don't want to do that. They don't want to realize that that's a conflict of interest. And people do what they're told. That's the saddest part. They hear something, they do what they're told. And it's really sad that it happens. And this is the point that I want people to read what I put out there on this, claiming your bloodline. Your bloodline comes from the Great Spirit and Mother Earth. Without a woman, you have no child. Without the man, you have no child. Sorry, I cannot believe that Mary just got pregnant by the wind. Some things you just cannot go along with. And if you actually do the real history on the Bible, Mary is a totally different structure compared to what we're led to believe by the church. And if you actually do that, you get pastors and reverends and popes who have stated that there is no hell. Hell is created for mind control. And there's videos on it, there's testimonies on it throughout public hearings and everything. The other major point that when you have your child in your custody is that you want to make sure that any public employee around you that you file on under 1938 Foreign Administration Registration Act. Mandatory filing for any public servants, anybody in politics, anybody that's a judge, an attorney, anybody who's a contractor to any part of the government. That includes, that's the government of we the people. That includes even the school cafeterias because they're contracted to the, paid by through the government contract, and so they're technically supposed to register too. There's a Department of Justice, and that's the Foreign Registration Act. Because the minute you are paid by the taxpayer system, you become a foreign agent. You give up your constitutional rights or citizenship or national rights as an immigrant. And let's make sure that people, you guys comprehend that one. If you are a citizen or a national, you're an immigrant. It's that simple. Read the federal law. It clearly states it. I have it in my instance, almost in every letter or instrument I put out. I put the actual law of that in it. So that way there's not a conflict of interest. The public servants, excuse me, do not register with the Foreign Administration Registration Act. It's a felony. That's imprisonment. It's a felony. There is no forgiveness. There is no politeness with this. It's a felony. And so this is the one thing that we, the people, have to start protecting our bloodline, our families on this. And that means even if we are elected a public servant, you're catching on to this, register yourself. Because when people start catching on, they start filing this and they come after you. At least there's one thing you can say that you don't have to go to prison for. Because it is a felony if you are a contractor or elected public servant or anything in the government of we the people. And we the people own the government. That's the point. We the people own the government. The government does not own us. And like I said, I want to get back to reading this other thing. I want to bring up another point here as soon as I get back on this page here. I just got that put together today because I was that finished up. But I sit together most of the days all day long, and I write this stuff up, put stuff together. I go through it. So that way, when I bring it out to the people and the evidence, people comprehend it. I want to make sure you know this stuff. And under 18 U.S.C. 219.951, if you do not register in the Foreign Registration Act, it is a felony. That's the code that makes it a felony, and that's jail. And people say, well, it's not working. People ain't filing. People ain't registering. Point. People ain't filing, and we the people ain't standing up with one another to make sure it happens. And that also too falls under Title 22, Foreign Registration and Intercourse, Chapter 11, identifies all public officers as foreign agents. All. Anybody who gets a paycheck from the state and federal government is a public elected and public servant, or public servant. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And people say, well, I'm getting a state check and I'm on welfare. That makes me a deal, a public servant, because I have a birth certificate filing. And my child getting that makes me a public servant. Well, you could probably go that route on the legal point, but then again, if you have paperwork filed against that and you have your paperwork filed with the state stating you don't give up your rights and you are entitled to benefits, what they call benefits, it's not a benefit. You're entitled to entitlements. We do have that. People say, oh, we don't have entitlements. Yes, we do. That's called March 9th, 1933, the Bankruptcy Act. That only applies to elected public, to registered lawful bloodline Americans. That means you make it public. That way you have your papers. Like the movies would say in German movies, show me your papers, show me your papers. Now you got papers. When a cop shows up at the hospital, well, you won't sign this, you won't do that. You've got to learn to read this stuff that I put out. You have to comprehend to your public servant. And we do have honorable people out there that they are reacting, they are doing this, so we have to work with them. Work with them. How do we plan on changing the system? Because it ain't going to change by no court system. You can pray to God all you want, but look what that's done in the last couple of years. People pray to God. We keep hearing how God's going to resurface and do all this stuff. Where is he? Like my favorite saying to people, that Jesus could sit there and he can sit next to you. He could do a miracle right in front of you, and you would call him a liar. You would. Wouldn't believe that he proved the miracle in front of you. You'd call him a liar. So on the ownership of your child, you want to get a structure too. If you get blood taken out of the hospital, try to get a test tube of the blood yourself, of you and your child. Yes, I'm doing that, and that's the point. Read the thing. I get messages right now, and I'm putting this stuff out. I'm telling you some of the process, how to do it, but you have to read it and file this stuff for yourself. I'm not your daddy. I'm not your mom. I'm trying to give you the education, bring the stuff out for you to file it. You have to file and claim your bloodline. That is the major circumstances, is knowing your bloodline, proving it. You cannot claim an adoption on a child because that's not your bloodline. That has to be done legally through what they call those court systems. And when you have your child taken without due process, you have to file due process, and you have to file in the right court system. I've talked to many people that keep going back to the same court, and they keep going back to the same court, and they want to argue about their same court. And it's like, did you file in Washington, D.C.? Did you read the Administration Act of Washington, D.C.? Did you read Title 17 of the Federal Code? Well, no. Well, you got to read that stuff so you know what you're talking about and how to file. If you don't know how to file the process, how to stand on it, nobody's going to be able to stand with you unless you know what you're talking about. And that's the one thing I do plan on putting a thing where we can start doing this to people's applications. We can start wrapping back and forth and enforcing stuff. But when we do that, remember, we're taking a liability for somebody else's statement. And that's the one thing I don't like, taking those type of liabilities. People say, well, I want you to go to court for me, Ed. I don't like to do that. I've done that before in the past, helped out families that to save their family and children, and then find out to turn on you. Years down the road, a couple of ladies, I got their kids 15 years ago back. One of the kids was mentally retarded, and now all of a sudden she says she can't deal with it. The other one had severe medical, and we can't deal with it. It's taking too much of my life out of time. I can't go, run to churches and do the preaching I did, or spend time with my boyfriend the way I want to. Well, either you're claiming your bloodline or not. It's called responsibility. So, like I said, let's repeat this one point again. When you're doing your affidavits and putting it in, I've got the 4 or 5 points of affidavit up on the New Orleans trackers and all over the internet. You're claiming your bloodline. You have to file it. does help if the child's with you. You go privately pay for a blood test, and you put that so you can incorporate that into your affidavit of ownership of the blood samples that were taken. So that way, that makes sure that it doesn't become an issue like public servants try to do on those type of circumstances. Because public servants definitely would like to go after you on these things because they're going after you because they have no life, number one. They're going after you because their devil contract is paying them because it's called a federal debt note. Excuse me. And they know it. A lot of these public servants and cops will sit there and go, well, I don't know that you don't need a driver's license. Yes, they do. They know you don't need a driver's license. They get a federal cut of the federal funding. State adoption, Oregon State Adoption Program. Their funding for adoption went up several $1 million this last Senate session. It's gone up 100% just in the last 8 years. And they'll come back and say, we don't have money, we're raising taxes. Well, Kate Brown in the state of Oregon proposed, and she's doing it, she's raising taxes up $1 billion straight across the board. That means stealing your home, your assets. They don't care. These people who work for the government, they don't love you, they don't care about you, they want you. They want your money. They want your home. They want your gold. They want your jewelry. Then they'll claim that I work for the public and I have a right to get it and you owe me because I'm doing this wonderful job for you, when they don't do a wonderful job. And the steps are simple. I told you, file it. You do it in the city, county, state. You have to make sure that you file it publicly. I've said this for 2 years with some of you people on this. You have to put it in the city, the county, the state. File it with the clerk. If you don't file this stuff with the clerk or hang it on Republican bulletin boards, you don't have a right. Your ownership of your child. If you don't file, you own that child. You have no rights to that child. It's that simple. Even though that you might not have the child in your custody and you can prove the bloodline on that child, you file it and start claiming it, you start filing it to claim it. And one thing is that I try to explain this to people all the time. Quit fighting in your local court system. Well, the judge does this, and the judge does that, and he tells me I can't do this, the judge tells me I can't do that. You're damn right he's going to tell you that. He don't love you. He don't care about you. He goes to church. He's a good Christian man or woman. So I tell you, Christians lie, cheat, and steal. 80% of your judges, administration clerk, public servants, 80% of them all Christians or Roman Catholics or some religion. They believe in their God, but they believe rape, robbing, and stealing and murdering is okay. When they call it a homicide, that's murder. When a cop shoots to murder somebody, they call it a homicide, not that the cop murdered somebody. That's how they get away with it. Yeah, we'll open up the floor. That's a good point. I guess we should open up the floor, so when you open up the floor.
Q&A session has started.
To get in on the Q&A session, hit *61.
First one, go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, I was researching information about the courts in Pennsylvania today. I noticed that there's a Western District and an Eastern District. I know you've stated to go to, I want to say, Philadelphia. So,
on your wall.
How is it decided which one to go to?
I put it on your wall. It says Philadelphia Constitution Court. It's the first court system that was enacted. The only court is the first court in Philadelphia that opened the doors in 1779.
Am I not getting these posts?
Yeah, I put it on my wall, and I put it out publicly. The first court that opened its doors in 1779 in Philadelphia. That's the Constitution Court.
Okay, excellent. I'll look up that information.
I put it up on your wall earlier today.
Yeah, I guess I didn't see it, and I'll look again. I did not see anything like that. Also, is there a FARA request form?
Yes, I haven't quite really finished it up. I'm going to have it finished up. I was trying to get it finished today. I had to do some medical stuff that I had to fill out, some medical stuff that I'm dealing with, an issue I'm dealing with, and actually, this is a good point. Let me put this up on your wall. I don't know if they put this up on your wall either, but you want to make sure that you put this instrument in your stuff. I'm going to put it up. I'm glad that this just popped up. It is the unclean and clean hand document instrument. I do recommend when you write your instruments to put this one in these things, so that way you've already got them nailed with this information, so it cannot be a conflict of interest. And
Okay.
see, the one thing is I do recommend, too, you always want to get a conflict of interest statement from the district attorney, the judge. Even if you're an electricity company, you want to get a conflict of interest from the county commissioner to the board member of an electricity company. It doesn't just, a conflict of interest statement does not just work in a courtroom. A conflict of interest statement works for any corporation.
Where do I find this? What is entailed on it? I have not heard of this statement.
The conflict of interest statement, basically, you type in conflict of interest statement, federal conflict of interest form, and it comes up on the internet. It even comes up with attorneys, and then when you're going through those type of cases, you want to make sure that you put it in for attorneys and judges.
Okay, I will look that into. I see a whole bunch of stuff. I don't see just a form.
Oh, yeah, no, just type in conflict of interest federal form. I haven't got that put up on my wall, but I know I've gone through a conflict of interest and had it pulled up, put it in. And then the other one that people need to read, I'll go ahead and put this one on your wall, is the Article 3 of the court system.
So there isn't in existence at this time a FARA request form?
Yes, there is. I'm writing one that I haven't finished myself up. It's 31 pages that I'm doing, and I'm putting it in if they don't respond in 21 days. Because you have to, when you do the FARA request form that I'm writing up, you want to, you have the website, emails, as well as the address that you want to email it, as well as send it to the address in mail form. So the hard copy is filed, and if they don't respond in 21 days, you respond back to that, so that way they can start indictment process on them. Because it says in the form by the Foreign Administration Registration Act, if they don't comply at this point, this is their own rules and regulations and their own structure. Clearly states that if they don't respond, they're supposed to be indicted, mandatory. There's no forgiveness period, no easement. It's mandatory. It completely says mandatory.
Well, I know one such individual who says in their state it is not, the bar does not require that, or it's not required. So
You're not hearing. You're not hearing. They will tell you everything under the sun is not required.
Well, he's
You make that decision. You're talking to a man or woman who is telling you to take a hike. Shut your mouth. Talk to us. That's exactly what they're telling you.
Well, according to law of their state, there is none requirement. I'm not just talking out my ass and not reading research.
Let's talk about law. Here, I'm going to put the
somebody that you know.
Oh, I'm
Never
going to
mind.
put the actual law
difficult.
up there for you right now to read. I don't care what these ignorant turds that want to tell
I
you.
don't. Okay.
I'm going to show you the actual law. They can lie all they want to you.
Yeah, Ed.
Hey, go ahead. Hang on a second. Let me get this up on her wall. I don't care what these people
Sitting
say.
here,
Here's the law
Ed,
that
I'm going to make a statement. Do not argue on this show, otherwise I will do what I just did. Mute and go to the next caller.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Good point. I appreciate that. Failure to file with the Foreign Registration Act statement goes directly to jurisdiction. A lack of standing before the court is a felony. I read this earlier in the show, 18 U.S. 219951. And if you have to file it with these people, and this is the point that they're going to lie to you. Your senators, your congressmen, your state attorney general, they lie. And if you actually read federal law, their job is to lie to you. It's your responsibility to know the law to prove that they can't lie to you. And thank you, by the way, for that one. You are right. But anyhow, you've got it all right now on your wall to do the research. I'll finish up the other point that I'm doing on the Registration Act to serve and file on them. I do have a FOIA request that's up on the website that when you do a FOIA request for information, it already has the 1938 Foreign Administration Registration Act in it, and including the filing for the clerk in it. If they don't respond, it has the information to file it with the federal government to have them put in prison by their own administrative rules. So a judge, and a local attorney, a state attorney, a public defender, a city, county, public defender, or a district attorney, if they don't file, you file on them to go to prison. The law is clear states if they don't file, they go to jail as a felony. Her responsibility is to file it in Washington, D.C. with the Department of Justice under that act, and you have the information on your wall now. Do you got that? Do you see it? Did she go?
I'm no longer able to speak because of the argumentative. So now is next caller.
Yeah, let's go next caller. Thank you for that correction. No problem. It's on your wall right now. Right now, you have the information and the law. The law is there, so go ahead and file it with the people. Go ahead, next caller.
Ed, this is Daniel.
Hey, how you doing, guy?
Much better than I look, I hope.
I hope so. I hope you're not getting younger than I am.
Well, I don't know about that. I never looked at you. Probably don't want to either.
Okay.
Sometimes tonight it's been kind of like you've been talking through a rubber band. So some things I've missed. You said something about 22 USC with regard to the same thing. Now, what was that?
Under 22, that's dealing with filing on the Registration Act.
22 what?
I gotta go back and find it now. I had it up earlier. 22 USC 611-621. You never.
21.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, okay. So, Foreign Agent Registration Act is 18 U.S.C. 22-951 and 22-611.
22 USC.
Yeah.
-611-621.
-621.
Right.
Okay, so that's through.
Right.
611 through 621. Okay.
Right.
Okay, now what was the 18-22951? What was that?
18 USC 219-951. That is the felony of any cop, registered notary, judge, sitting any public servant that gets a paycheck, any elected public servant who gets a paycheck, does not register with the Foreign Administration Registration Act. It's a felony. They don't register. It's mandatory prison.
Okay. Now, the 13th Amendment had a first and a second ratification.
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you give me ratification dates on that so I know what I'm looking at?
First one is 1861. That was before the South walked out. The South and the North ratified it. There was 100% ratification. I'm trying to remember the actual date. I know it was in 1861.
Okay. Now, what was the second ratification? It's the same 13th Amendment.
Yes, it is. And that happened after the South walked out.
Okay. Now, the 14th Amendment, to my comprehension,
right?
The 10 of the states were denied lawful representation, and we're not allowed to vote on that, and the president did not sign it on the 14th Amendment. I'll let you verify that, but that's my comprehension of it.
Well, I've got two deals that I've got to study a little bit more. I have one where he actually signed it, and I have one that was just sent to me recently. Like I said, I don't have your email yet. I can't send it to you. Let me go ahead and pull it up. Let me get this pulled up here. Because I got to open it up and put it in the file. Because I had a gentleman that just recently sent me a congressional record that he dug up and got it where it was questionable about it being even enforceable by congressional record. Let me see if I can pull that up here real quick. On the same point, I haven't had a chance to get back to this because I haven't had a chance to read all of the deals from both sides of the instruments on both sides to confirm them yet. So let me go down that.
Well, you know my phone number.
Well, you know your phone number. You still haven't sent me your email to make it easier for me to send you something.
I'll give it to you again. It's Daniel.
Well, I'd much rather you email it to me. That way it's easier because I get
email. Okay. Daniel?
Hang on a minute. I got to get a piece of paper. Okay.
That's B as in Bravo. B-E. Okay.
And then your first
okay.
B-A-N-E. Okay. Okay. All right. I got that done now, finally. I'm going to try to get this one looked up because I just had a guy that me and him been on the phone going back and forth on the 14th Amendment, and basically it turns out it's like we're trying to determine, it's like we're both right, and we're trying to determine the circumstances of what the intention was of basically they're doing this to set it up so it was almost like they set it up for an out for whoever wanted to use it, how they wanted to use it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think it pertains to lawful bloodline Americans. It pertains to citizens, the way I comprehend it.
Right, citizens and nationals.
Right.
And see, that's the point. See, there's the point that people don't get where I keep going with the bloodline Americans, too. That because, see, when it says citizens and nationals, that means you're a corporation member owned by the Vatican. And bloodline, because like when people right now have been going in and they're going into court and they'll ask them, are you a citizen here? And they go, no, I'm a bloodline. And they're going, well, what are you, a citizen or national? And they go, no, I'm a bloodline. And then they try to corner them on citizenship. And they go, no, I'm a bloodline. And now with guess they've been telling people that, all right, you need to leave the courtroom. Because they can't. There's the 14th Amendment of citizenship. After you become a permanent citizen under ownership of the corporation.
Right. Under Title 28 USC 3002:15.
Correct, and that's part of the title of nobility. And that's what I tell people. I don't have a title of nobility. I don't want a title of nobility because when you take a title of nobility, that means, or even if you get knighted, you're not an American.
Right. Well, if you're a esquire, you're not an American either. You remember the British Accredited Registry.
Right, exactly.
Okay, but moving on to the next subject, and I'm going to express it again. You know we agree to disagree on this.
Oh, yeah, no, I do that with a lot of people on religion.
Okay. My Christian beliefs.
Yeah.
My belief in Yahweh, the Father, and His Son Yeshua HaMashiach predate Constantine, Emperor Constantine, and his interference with Christianity, and predate his development of the church.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in Kahal, assembly, church, the Lord's house, King James being the Lord, or Lord Constantine being the Lord. Those are not my lords.
Right.
My God is Yahweh, and His Son is Yeshua HaMashiach. And so it predates Constantine. It predates everything you keep talking about. And it has a standing long before Constantine. Emperor Constantine was a government man, and King James was a government man. And they did want to influence the world, and they did use religion to influence the world. So they twisted, connived, manipulated. But my beliefs predate all that. And I'll stand by them until I'm dead.
Right.
You know, so anyway, we agree to disagree on that, but there is a history long before Constantine and long before the Catholic Church.
Oh, no, I'm not agreeing with that. Like I said, we do agree to disagree on that, but we do agree on the point of it. That's why I go by, religion that's on this soil, Mother Earth, the Great Spirit, because the others are from foreign countries, as we disagree and agree to disagree. That's the one thing that is the beauty about it. We can still have our rights intact because the Constitution gives us our rights to have our beliefs.
That's correct.
We'd all be lost.
As long as I believe you have the right to believe in accordance with the dictates of your own conscience, as long as you harm no other.
Absolutely. So long as there's no personal property damage.
Yeah. Now, if you start sacrificing my daughter, then I'll be a little bit upset, more than upset. Then you broke the law. So, and there are people out there that will do that.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to call them people. But anyway, I'll let you go, and I'll retreat here, and somebody else can step up. You take care. Catch you later.
And I appreciate that, Daniel, too, because I got several other people that we do discuss religion, and we do agree to disagree on different things, and they're like you on some of your beliefs. But, my belief is I don't like the stuff that came from a foreign country here. But, see, the thing is that when people comprehend that the Constitution gives us equal rights, we can have a right to disagree on different things or agree on things, but we have to have respect to one another for each other's beliefs because the Constitution gives us the right, not privilege.
Well, I believe we're sojourners in a foreign land. So we came from a foreign land. We're all foreigners, but we're born into this land.
Not all.
Now, I never was put on a set of trucks and ran down a set of rails into the water. And I never was put on a dry dock and sank. So I was never birthed. But I'm here in this foreign land and probably will be until he decides to take me home. So that's the way it is for me. I am a foreigner here. But even though I'm a bloodline American, my family has been here for 607 years.
Right.
Probably 407 years. I said 600. 407 years. We came over in 1610. 400. My family's been here for 407 years. So yeah, I'm a lawful bloodline American by blood, but
Right.
I predate my blood. So anyway, I'll let you go. You got other people who want to talk.
Yeah, no
Take
problem.
care.
I appreciate that, and that's the one thing that, comprehending the circumstances. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this one right now, and you make sure that you let me know if you get this one, because I'm gonna open it up and read some passages. This is what a gentleman sent me on the 14th Amendment not being ratified, and I have paperwork that says it was. So it's putting the things together and having a chance to sit down and do that correctly, to my satisfaction, to put it together so that way I know. Oh, by the way, it's all lowercase, right, Daniel?
Say what?
All lowercase?
Am I filing my case?
No, your name is all lowercase.
Yes.
Okay, good. All
My
right.
name is all lowercase. Daniel. An email can.
Well, I'm doing that right now, so I want to know if you do get it. Let me know, because
Okay, well, I'm not going to be talking on the phone and use it to get an email at the same time, so I'll have to let you know tomorrow.
Yeah. No, just let me know if you get it. That's all that matters to me. And then
Okay. Well, you have a good night and keep on looking ugly. Don't you get cute or pretty on me now.
You better not do the same, because it will scare you.
Scare people. Take care. Bye-bye.
Dude, that is the one thing that's the beauty about life. People don't get it. You do have a right to disagree on things, and the thing is when you agree, that's wonderful. When you disagree, you don't sit there and fight and kill each other on things like this, because the Constitution gives you equal rights. And as soon as you comprehend how the Constitution works, why the Constitution works, because my belief is not like Daniel's is, or like a lot of yours folks or Christians. I've had a lot of bad experience with Christians myself. Okay, that's just part of life. I can't argue it. I can't complain about it. It's happened. Like, people can't complain about me on different things. This happened. But the thing is that we're supposed to be able to talk to each other, have respect, and come to a common sense of things, and talk about the actual circumstances of laws, administrative rules, and how we're being screwed by the Vatican and churches on these issues that affect our bloodline, our children. It does affect our children. Go ahead.
They were imposed by Emperor Constantine, and I will tell you that the way I comprehend it, he did like Hebrew Christians. He put over 2,000 of them to the cross, and he fed the bodies to his armies as sausage. He must have liked them.
Yeah, well, he had to like them too, because they ate human flesh.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing today, because we are living that today in some of the products that are in the grocery stores today. What is that movie that Charlton Heston did? 1972, I think it was. Oh, God, I'm having a brain fart.
Well, I have no proof of that, Ed, of today, and I only have rumored history on the past. So, I wasn't there.
If you type in McDonald's, human body parts. We even turned this into evidence, did research in 2015. McDonald's got busted for grinding human body parts in their meat products. Not a joke. It's real. It's been put in major newspapers. California McDonald's meat grinder got busted 4 times in 2 years with human body parts in it.
Okay, well, I'd like to see the proof on that one.
Oh, yeah, no, type it in. Soylent Green is a good movie to watch. I'm going to type in McDonald's, and I'll go ahead and put it on my Facebook wall again. I've done it before.
Okay, well, I don't have Facebook, and with good reason. So, anyway, you take care of yourself. Have a good night. You probably have other callers that want to talk besides me. And
the new update, it says that human meat is still found in McDonald's products. I'm putting it on my wall right now.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I know you don't have it, but I'll put it up on my wall. So, and like I said, the stuff that when I do this stuff, I want to do the research. I turned in a lot of this stuff on different byproducts that some of the fast food industry was using. Burger King does not use that to my comprehension at all. The Burger King used donkey and horse and mule meat.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't doubt it, and kangaroo too.
Yeah, we can't forget the kangaroo too. So I don't have a problem with that. And kangaroo steak, that I heard, is really good. I've never tried that one, but I've had rattlesnake and alligator.
Well, I don't want to eat any buzzards. Alligator's no different than a buzzard. He'll eat anything.
Yeah, that's like eating seagulls. You know, and I couldn't eat a seagull because the acetone in seagulls.
Anyway.
But yeah.
Anyway, I'll let somebody else step up to the platter here. You take care.
And I'm glad I was able. Sorry that I didn't get the main number back to you as soon as possible on that. Like I said, I do apologize. And you were the one who brought it to my attention mainly to correct it, so that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, you take care of yourself. We'll catch you later.
Yeah, don't look in the mirror.
Well, I won't break it anyway.
Oh, good.
They're all stainless steel.
Oh, smart man. All right, Daniel, we'll talk to you real soon. I'll get some of this other stuff emailed to you, too. So you got to let me know, too. Let me know if you do get it emailed to you.
Okay, I'll let you know.
So, but this is the one thing, I'm going to get into this, but anybody else have any other questions right now? The floor is still open. Like, I'm putting this stuff up right now so people can actually see this, so you comprehend. I'm not just making it up. I'm not sitting there trying to slam McDonald's down. I just don't eat McDonald's, period. And I could even I'll put the videotape of the Jewish corporation that owns McDonald's that is so proud to say how they named it. Jewish talk show. I know, I listened to it. I couldn't believe that about I'll put this up for folks too. I got it in my somewhere in my archives. But it is interesting. Here we go. I'll put this link up. I mean, these guys are that bold. They go on talk shows and they say, people come to McDonald's and they eat this food all the time, and and this is the point that I keep getting those chopped up. But people don't comprehend what they're feeding themselves or their children. They wonder why they get sick. What goes on, why they get sick. It's the food we're eating. I mean, you just think Monsanto's is the worst of it. It's not. Monsanto's is not the worst of it. There's so much more that is out there that, and this is from the rabbi of the Jewish communities that do this stuff. Huh, that's interesting. So I guess I'm being blocked on Facebook again. Oh, that's interesting. I guess people don't like it when I put this stuff up. Tell the truth, They don't want people to know the real truth about what you're eating, about what's going on in your communities. Like the big push in the 1990s, everything is supposed to be fun, fun, fun. don't tell people the truth. It's supposed to be fun. You know, you cannot just sit there and go through this and comprehend that everything is supposed to be fun. You know, when it's not. So I guess that one, at least that one went up on mine, it looked like. Boy, it's sure taking a long time. Yeah, it did. So, and like I said, this is the one thing that people need to realize, that, you know, people do not comprehend how bad a lot of this stuff really is going on around you. And once you realize how bad a lot of this stuff is, and what you eat and what you put in your body, and you wonder why you get sick and these things that do happen, you know, it does make a difference of what goes on. It really does. This ain't a joke of what we're doing to our bodies, what we're doing to ourselves. So I'm putting this up on my walls right now so you can see this, you know, and people wonder where all these children get kidnapped for and what goes on, why these people are kidnapped in the child slavery market that even Corey Feldman is talking about from Hollywood. And it's, people don't get it. It's all about money. That's what gets to me. And a lot of these people, besides being with the, you know, whatever Jewish on this one, a lot of these people are Christians that are involved in your government doing this. They go to your churches. They actually do this stuff, you know, and that's why I just don't go into supporting those type of circumstances. And we do have a right to disagree and agree. So anyhow, is there any more, anybody else would like to speak at this point?
No more callers waiting, so.
Oh, okay. We got that one cleared. So, all right, we got that one. I did get the other information posted up. We'll get more on stuff. So I will get this. And the other point is I love it when everybody keeps going on the 14th Amendment. We're slaves. I have the deal that I put in my instruments where it clearly outlines, and that's what Daniel was talking about. If you are claiming to be a citizen or a national, you are a slave. It's that simple. Okay, it's knowing the language when you go to courts. When you're in courts, going to courts, knowing how to present your case. Is like what Dave would do when he gets pulled over. Dave don't have a license. He doesn't have tags on his covered wagon at all. And so when he gets pulled over on those circumstances of what goes on, when he gets pulled over, the first thing he does, ask the officer, what's your emergency? How can I help you? What is your concern? Yeah, and I don't answer questions. I'm not part of answering questions. You know, and it's that simple. You're not there to answer questions when you get pulled over. If there's no personal property damage, and that's like when you're claiming your bloodline, your child, when you own your child. You have to own your child. If you don't own your child is open on the open market to be sold. And that's what the police departments do. That's what DHS does. That's called adoption, foster parents, foster care, selling children, making a living off it. They even got the federal laws on it. When a child's in foster care, how they tap into that Social Security structure to pay for that child, not only for the state, but the foster parents out of Social Security itself. And it was March 3rd, 1997, when William Jefferson Clinton signed Social Security over to the Queen of England. The employer part, not the employee structure, because the employee part that when we pay into Social Security is a private contract, not a government agency. And that's where people don't get it. You read, that's what I say, it's so important you actually read the original contracts. They are trying to get rid of the original contracts. They really are. So you have to do some research. I'm still getting original contracts. That's why I'm putting them up, getting them out to the general public. Like I said, I'll be getting this one out. Non-ratification of the 14th Amendment was done. This was stating June 13, 1967. We'll have the link put up on the deal on the new.org and tracker so people can read and print this off. This is a congressional record from the House, June 13, 1967. It clearly states. So if the 14th Amendment was never ratified, there's no such thing as even called a state slave. You can't be a slave to something that is not ratified. See, this is the point. People don't get these things. If it wasn't ratified, it's not a law, and they're trying to do it. That's like what they're trying to do with taxes, saying you have an obligation to pay taxes. There is no law that says you have to pay taxes on labor. The only law that even goes back in history is you have to pay taxes on interest and dividends. Labor is non-taxable. That's where people don't get it. It's non-taxable.
All participants are unmuted. Q&A session is over.
Anyhow, seeing that we got nobody standing in the wings, it's 7 o'clock now. I think that we'll call it an evening. I'll get some more of this stuff put up on the site. I will, by next Sunday night, I will finish the 1938 Foreign Registration Act so people can start filing that on your city council, your local administration, stuff like that, because I still got to do it because I got to finish that up to file on my administration here in Oregon, in the country of Oregon. So I got to get that finished up so I get that filed. Because I want to start getting that file put out to the media and start pushing this out. Because like I said, it's up to we the people to do this. If we don't do it, there is no freedom. If we don't start opening this up and getting the truth out, there's no freedom for your bloodline, your children. It's that simple. So, but anyhow, and by the way, thank you, Daniel, and also too, like I said, for those who believe in your religion point of view, I don't disagree with your religion point of view. The Constitution gives you that right. The Constitution gives me my rights to believe in the Great Spirit, Mother Earth, and the Creator. I don't believe in foreign structures. That's my right. Like Daniel said, yeah, a lot of our foreign structures came from foreigners, foreign entities. Half of my family came from a foreign country a couple hundred years ago. So I get that. My other side of the family, Cherokee, been here the whole time. So, it's like knowing what your bloodline is, knowing what's going on, and by the structure, even by the administrative rules and what's going on we've got up there, and by Congress record, because I have that, because if you're claiming to be a citizen or national, even by Executive Order 2040, and that was done March 9th, 1933, you are stating that you cannot be an American, you're a foreign agent. So all that stuff we have up, that's in the instruments I put out, and just about every instrument I put that, the records in it. Excuse me. The records in those points. Those points of view. So, and that's the point. When you do write your instruments, always include administrative records, include the Constitution structures in it. As we say, they wrote it, we the lawful bloodline Americans quote the original Constitution structure of their administrative rules in it. If we don't quote it to protect ourselves, that's the point. If we don't protect ourselves, nobody else is going to do it. So, and then the other one I'll be putting up that we have, please look up original 13th Amendment testimony in New Hampshire. It's an hour-and-a-half video. It's well worth watching on the 13th Amendment, and it proves that it was passed twice. And not only that, the state of New Hampshire reincorporated it back in New Hampshire I forgot what year. It was like 14, 15 years ago. So with that, I like to say, bless you all. May the Great Spirit bless you. May Mother feed you, bring you life, and may the Creator look over you. Have a good evening. And thank you all for showing up.
All participants are muted.
Congress shall now vote for approval of H.R. 8791, the Homeland Terrorism Preparedness Bill. Said bill requests emergency response funding up to and including, this section is classified, dollars to prepare for a national level terrorist attack and or attack from classified. Funding for first responder personnel and vehicles would be doubled if said attack leads to more than 80% of national population being affected by classified. This funding shall commence in conjunction with the first attack on classified or the first large-scale outbreak of classified, dependent upon which comes first. Civilian and military units shall be trained in containment and combat of classified, including irradiated classified with possibility of classified airborne, classified flesh-eating, classified and or all of the above in such event as classified spewing, classified escape are released or otherwise become uncontrollable. Air Force units may also be directed to combat said classified due to their enormous size and otherworldly strength. Should event occur in urban areas, that's classified, far surpassing our darkest nightmares. Should casualties exceed, classified body disposal actions shall be halted and associated resources shall be reallocated to classified underground, classified protected birthing centers. A new Bill of Rights shall be drafted and approved by classified. Having now reviewed the bill, I ask you to please cast your vote.
Just got a glimpse into, I believe it was 2012, Congress hearing kind of thing. Yeah. So it is the disclaimers by Ed Johnston. It is October 30th, 2017, classified. And, well, you all have a classified evening.